we all enjoy Dark Side of the Ring to a certain point, but in some points, I feel like they kind of maybe twist your words or kind of put things in place. I'm not saying they did that with you, but the one thing I found interesting, and I wanted to know what you were thinking was you had this accident, right? And you're married to your first wife, and you're going through these struggles, and then she's by your side trying to help mend you through, and then later on in the show you say, well, I continued to just have extramarital affairs, do that.
No, that she said that.
She did. Okay,
yeah, right.
So right, I forgot that.
Yeah.
So I apologize for that. How did that make you feel?
The relationship with her was obviously damaged before all this took place, and after the fact and all the things and whatnot, when you're in the throes of the emotion of the struggle, I was 5 months in a hospital, 5 months, and when all the lights come off and you're no longer in the movie, in all the drama and all the excitement, and you come back head to head and you're looking at each other eyeball to eyeball and trying to decide whether you really even want to be around this particular person or not, things happen. And it happens to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And that everyone that doesn't even come from the lifestyle that I came from. And I think the picture was painted a little different from her perspective, because I think a lot of things came to light to her during that whole time that I was in the hospital. And then we came out and we're not, on top of the world anymore, where they don't have the bright future we once had. I think there was a lot of, where the bitterness, maybe the depression, the this, to that, the other, all played into those scenarios. And that's really what the rest of the story that probably wasn't portrayed real well in that portion of it. But I would never be objectionable to her saying the way it made her feel, because truly she was hurt by the things that happened.
And to be honest, I think it's probably hard for her to look. You're this good-looking guy, super famous. There probably had to be a lot of pressures on her even before your accident, and then to add the accident on, it's
hands
10
down.
times more, right?
Yeah, you can't serve two masters. And that old rock and roll song about a road, no place to raise a family. With a wrestling business, there's no place to be committed in to anything but the thing that you're most passionate about. And what I was most passionate about was being in the industry and all the things that came along with that. And the road life, being on the road 30 and 40, 60 days at a time, in those environments was not conducive to to trying to keep anything together in the way of a long distance relationship. Just wasn't practical. And to tip the whole thing off to the worst it possibly could have been, the moment I got married and came back to after the break to the wrestling industry, Bill Watts takes my brand new bride off to the side and says, "Oh, by the way, we're now pushing him as a sex symbol, and you're no longer allowed at any of the buildings anywhere
Wow.
you go." Where she once traveled with me and went places occasionally and all this stuff, that was all now off limits. So you had to make choices, and some of them aren't pretty, and some of those are preventable. But you would not be able to survive in that fishbowl and not play the part. And it was not just an on-camera role back then. It was the day before kayfabe was broke. If you were that character, you were that character.
But that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, look, you fall in love, you want to get married, right? That's how we're taught, the natural thing to happen. But at that point, you're not Magnum TA, and all of a sudden now you become this icon. At some point, like, maybe I should have held off on the marriage thing a little bit.
And there's things that about the whys and the wherefores and why all that came to be that in retrospect I can say hey that was just a really bad. I could have just said right then, you know what? We probably should just
Let's have a
pretend this
long
didn't happen.
engagement. Let's have a long
Yeah. You might just want to rethink this whole thing. You know how good a deal I am, because I may not be that good a deal.
Take our time.
But but to be fair, it was a horrible position to be in as a woman, and so that's why I really just kind of quiet about her say and her perspective, because there are other perspectives, but there was enough bad done on the front side of that I'll give her that mulligan, because it's not worth it.
Well, I love the fact that you look at both sides of the story, right? I mean, that's what most people should do. They should think about like how the other person's feel. It's a great answer, man. It's really, that's why I like Dark Side of the Ring, but there's some points I feel like not everything has to be so dark. How about the good side of the ring once in a while?
The light side.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest thing with them, and they promised me, and they held true to it, was I didn't want it to be a sad ending story. I wanted it to be a story of adapting and overcoming and moving on to another chapter, rather than what could have been, what should have been, what all that stuff. Fell into, he fell into this and that and the other, and just travesty after travesty, and that's not the case. We all have challenges in life, and it's what we do with those challenges that ultimately define us as what kind of legacy we're going to leave. And you can say all these great philosophical things you want, but the proof's in the pudding. What did you really do?
Yeah.
What did you do at the end of the day?
Yeah. Now, for me, these are the things I think about, right? Like, I grew up, I loved wrestling, right? But to me, there's more to it, right? You guys are intelligent, and you really have these incredible lives, and you're just like normal human beings. But like I thought to myself, right? You have this. We talked about this small family, right? So you end up meeting the love of your your present wife now. But obviously, we all know she was married to Tully Blanchard before. So I thought to myself, man, like, what kind of dynamic does that bring? Because you guys worked together, you knew each other. Wow, what kind of dynamic happens there?
And there I raised his 1, 3, 5, and 7-year-old for the next 15 years till they grow up, right? So he and I are so much alike in some ways, in that we're both workaholic-minded type people, to work towards a goal, be the best we could be. When I met Tully, he had the goal to be the best heel that he possibly could be, wanted to be the best in the world, didn't want to ever be somebody to be cheered. It wasn't one of those heels that secretly wanted to be liked and you have accolades thrown towards him. He wanted to be that nasty heel. And I wanted to be the baby face and do what I did. And we threw that chemistry into what we did, and it worked. And outside the ring, we both had our failures and our things we struggled with and stumbled with and tried to find our way through. But because of the vicinity and the closeness and the group that we all interacted with, when things were going wrong in parallel universes and they're having trouble and I'm in a crossroads, and all of a sudden unlikely people find their way commiserating about what's going on. It was a very unlikely situation, but the same things that caused them conflict with each other were a common ground for her and I, that we found some peace in. And so it was really unlikely. It was bizarre, but to his credit, talk about coping skills. I mean, he navigated his way through the emotional side of that and everything else, and he'd had a failed relationship, which is devastating in and of itself. But then to have his counterpart seemingly pick up the pieces and keep that whole little unit going for 2 decades, and we still coexist in this wrestling universe and go out and talk about the I Quit matches and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. We still got this uncommon bond, unspoken respect that is so far above and beyond the things that happen down here that it supersedes it. I don't really know how to explain it, but it's very unique, and it wasn't a path that I would have ever figured or prescribed. I mean, I had my first child, and thought, you know, one was enough, and I go from 1 to 5 to 7, and like bing bang boom
Wow.
at you know, at a very odd stage of my life. And here at 64 years old, have, you know, 16-year-old twins. So go figure.
Incredible, incredible.